y'all, hey, we are back for another review of Ruthless. We're on season 4, episode 21, entitled Make or Break. So let's just jump right into the review. At the end of last episode, George had ran up on Malcolm, and we were assuming that he shot him, which is not the case. George has caught up with Malcolm, and it appears that he only fired a warning shot into the ground, and then he goes to badgering Malcolm, asking him, like, how did you get out here? You know, all that good stuff. And Malcolm is pleading for his life, you know, don't shoot me, don't kill me, whatever and whatnot, right? And so George is trying to get him to walk back to the thing where he's actively stuck in the bear trap and his leg is probably broken. And so George is just giving him the 5th degree, like, who helped you get out? How'd you get out here? Or whatever. And he's like, well, I'm not saying nothing. I'm not saying nothing. And so George decides, I'm going to torture you a little bit, and steps on the bear trap, you know, and putting that pressure down on his leg, which means he's going to fold. Now, you, my friend, are an FBI agent, and you should have went through some kind of torture training, and that little bit of stepping on that little bear trap should not have folded you, but whatever, here we are. Either way, he eventually says that it was Ruth that helped him escape. And I don't know why he didn't throw Peter under the bus. Maybe he feels bad for the guy, whatever. Anyway, he claims that it was Ruth, and so it pissed me off because I like this dirty bastard. She didn't snitch on you. She saw you going out of the fence, even though she could have. There was no risk to her, and you still threw her up under the bus. Either way, he claims that Ruth told him to go get help, go get the sheriff, and whatever. So he's throwing Ruth under the bus. And then in that moment, that sandwich started getting the best of his ass because he started getting physically ill. And George is like, okay, whatever. He gets on the radio and tells Lewis that they've caught a deer in the bear trap, quote unquote deer, which is the signal, you know, I guess to let them know that they caught up with Malcolm. And Malcolm physically refuses to, like, be restrained or anything else to go back to the camp. He's just refusing to go back. And so George has to kick him in the head and knock him unconscious so he can be dragged back down. All right. So Ruth sends Lewis to calm Bridget down because they need her. They need her for tonight. And so he's gonna go take care of that. In the meantime, River tells Ruth about him breaking the computer and how, you know, all of that is not a problem anymore. And Ruth got way too much on her mind. She don't have time to be thinking about what River's talking about. She don't really want nothing to do it because she's actively in the middle of another plan. So she ain't got time. And it's, you know, kind of a, like when you go to your parents and you want them to say you proud type thing. Like, he wants her to be happy that he's able to come up with a solution on his own for once. Again, she ain't buying it. She's like, okay, whatever. Not impressed. I got a lot going on. I don't have time to think about what you got going on. And then Manny comes to get Ruth to go off to the heist so that they can figure out what the hell Joan got going on and if she's going to get thrown under the bus. All right. Lewis goes to the car, and Bridget is glad to see him. Child, her little face lights up, and he asks her, like, girl, why would you do that? Like, you know, we got a lot going on tonight. Why would you do that? And she was like, well, why would you be with that other girl? Like, since we're asking questions. And he claims that the girl, she caught him with had information, and he had to make that sacrifice for the both of them, you know, so that they can finish out their plan that they got going on tonight, blah, 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 blah. She tells him, you know, she threatens him to not do it again. Okay. Whatever. Yes, Mom. And then he's like, listen, we need you, Bridget. We don't have enough men. We need you back on the team. Are we good to go? And she's like, you know, I'm good. I'm back down. And then he gives her a gun to put in her boot, to put somewhere so that she could be ready for whatever her leg of the race is that we're going to find out by the end of today's episode. All right. Ruth shows up and Joan is sweating bullets. That lady could have been bought for a dime or a penny. She, is trying to communicate with Ruth, and the heist is like, no, you know, don't look at her, talk to me. And he tells Ruth, like, listen, I saw y'all outside of the window when I was trying to meditate what's really going on. And Ruth told the heist that, you know, I was just annoyed. And he was like, annoyed at what? And, you know, she's trying to get her story together. And Ruth said, listen, it was an argument between me and Joan. It was my fault. And then so both of them are just going back and forth, you know, apologizing. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I'm the sorriest. And the heist is like, y'all shut up. But I think something about that little, you know, eye contact that they were able to get, where Ruth had decided that she was not going to throw Joan under the bus, which I don't think it was any favor to Joan. Maybe that's a part of it. It's a very small part, but I think it's because we don't need any big blowouts happening right now, because there's a plan that's going to be happening tonight, and I can't deal with this right now. Like, if the Heist shuts the compound down or whatever it is, after he finds out about Joan and his account, whatever the ramifications are, they're going to affect what's supposed to happen tonight, and he needs to be out there giving a prophecy so we can get this money stole. So I don't have time to be, caught stirring up no more confusion. That's my thought. Anyway, I think they kind of, she spares her in this instance, and she tells him that it was about him, and Ruth being jealous of Joan being able to go to the bank with him and getting so close and spending so much time with him. The Heist is like, oh, I see what you're saying, but jealousy is not of the Raku, so you don't need to behave like that. And Ruth says, on the street, the euphemism would be that I would kill a bee for you. Like, that's how down I am for you. Whatever, kind of directing it, kind of handing Joan a little threat, like, don't cross me again, type of, subliminal that she was throwing out. And so Joan is dismissed, and I was laughing because Joan scurried, for lack of a better, she scurried up out of that trailer as if tomorrow was not gonna come, and she needed to get the hell on through. And so, if she could run, if she could take off sprinting, that's what she would have done to get up out of that trailer. So, that's just gonna solidify, girl, you're not in charge of the girls. You need to calm down and let Ruth take the lead. Okay. Lewis tells Daikon that they're on the way back with Malcolm, and that he shouldn't be too worried about Peter because he's less likely to go to the government. If he does anything, he'll hide, or he may come back to the compound because he knows that the Heist is going to be looking for him. He has no vested interest in going to the authorities, so he's at the bottom of the list of things to be worried about. And then Lewis commends Daikon on all the great work he's been doing with the soldiers, gives him a little pat on the shoulder, and Daikon kind of got a little randy with that thing, got a little turned on or something, because Daikon tells him, listen, like, why did you touch me just now? He was like, no sweat, brother. I just wanted to let you know that I'm on your side. We're in solidarity. Ain't no sweat, my pet. And Daikon tells him that touching is intimate. It's an intimate act. And so never touch me unless you're serious. So that tells me if you ain't trying to be intimate, don't keep your paws off me. And that would be enough warning for me. But I think that Daikon got his eyes on another little chocolate tender by way of George. And we'll talk about that by the end of the episode. But yeah, so Lewis might be, next best thing. Whatever. Anyway, he also asked him, like, hey, there was a plate in the punishment trailer. Do you know who fed the prisoners? He has no idea. So now Daikon is going to have to figure out, who fed the prisoners and what all that is about. All right. Ruth goes to Elder Mother and tells her, I'm going to be washing the Heist's feet. I was able to convince him to get me to do that. You need to give me what I need. We know that Elder Mother is basically bent over a barrel. She don't have any, she can't refute the statement, as much evidence as Ruth has against her, so she has to go with it. Ruth still can't get her to admit. She's trying to get her to admit about the poisoning, but Elder Mother ain't no slow leak, so we still don't get an actual full-out confession, but by conceding, that's your admission on multiple occasions. So, all right. We got Joan. Joan goes to Ruth, and she wants to apologize, but Ruth, again, it wasn't because Ruth is interested in mending the relationship or the plan that y'all have. It is just to keep down the hostility in the camp and to not keep anything from coming between what she's about to do by the end of the episode. It's not a favor to you. It's a favor to herself to keep her plan moving. And she doesn't want to hear anything that Joan has to say. I don't really care about your apologies. And Joan is going to give it anyway. She's like, listen, I was wrong for creating that account. And Ruth is like, listen, if you don't get out of my face, I'm going to throw this pot of hot water on your face. Just leave me alone. And so, that it might be the end of the Joan River Ruth saga, or I don't know. Ruth might be working multiple angles. We just never really know with Ruth. All right, so Desiree checked on the warrant, and it's still not there yet, which could prove to be a good thing because shit is about to hit the fan by the end of this episode. But we don't have a warrant. And the sheriff is sitting there, and he claiming he still has to go to the bathroom. Karen Cal wants to uncuff him just to give him an opportunity to try something so that he can exact his revenge, because Cal is taking it personal that, you know, he had Officer Kate killed, you know, by way of giving Mac the go ahead, you know, to get her out of the way. It's a problem. And so he's like, listen, give me any reason. Give me any reason to take the sheriff out of here. I ain't got no problems with it. What else we got? Aaron is able to pick up on the fact that Cal and Desiree are a couple. Who gives a damn? All right. River goes to Zane and he wants to, it seems like River's theme this episode is to kind of rectify all the relationships and kind of get his plans back in motion, and nobody actually has time or energy or trust left in him. He's kind of burnt a lot of bridges, and so, you know, it's getting hard for people to buy into what he's got going on. Either way, he goes to talk to Zane to convince her that he did not plan on leaving her, but neither Zane nor Lacey is buying anything that he's saying. He's profusely apologizing, and Lacey's just over talking the situation. She was like, no, you know, get out of here, you piece of trash. You was going to leave us, whatever. And then he was like, listen, if y'all want to really know the true reason why I was going to leave, I was not going to leave Zane. I was going to leave Lacey. Lacey is a injured deer of sorts, I guess, with the gunshots from her previous escape, and with everything, all the trauma and stuff that she has on. She's physically incapable of running, so he knows that she was going to drag them down. So it was less about Zane and more about the fact that he knows that Zane is unwilling to leave Lacey, and so he kind of had to keep Zane in the dark and kind of, like I said in another review, pull her along at the last minute because Lacey is, again, physically incapable of escaping right now. And so that is the truth of why he was presumed to leave both, when in fact it was just Lacey that he could not be bothered with. And I understand, you know, you the lame duck. You the one that's incapable of performing, and so you gotta figure out something else. But it looks like Zane wanted to hear him out. You can kind of tell she has a soft spot. She wanted to hear him, but Lacey was not letting up. Lacey was over talking. You know, Lacey ain't letting up on River. She's like, you know, don't trust him, girl. Don't listen to what he got to say. And so she eventually dismisses River. And then Zane tells her, like, listen, girl, I don't think it was a good idea to shoo him away because he always has a plan, and I don't want to miss out on anything. And Lacey's like, yeah, he's always working up on a plan, and also willing to leave your ass out like he did us the last time. So, you know, we ain't trying to trust him right now, which, understandable. I could see what that is about. All right, so the sheriff is sitting there on the bench. You know, he's earned some sympathy from one of the other agents and told him, you know, I'm an old man, I got cancer, I can just see here, I'm not a risk. And I guess it was to kind of put the bug in Aaron's ear to stay on top of the FBI, because the sheriff and Aaron can only reach their ears so much being locked up in the cage back there. Aaron is out, he's free, and us three need to be on the same mission. Not so much escape, but just making sure you're staying on top of the FBI to let them know, like, hey, y'all are going to screw this whole operation up. We don't need them to go and running with guns a-blazing. We got to calm down, and I need you to jump in and say something. You know, make sure we're keeping them calm. And Aaron, it doesn't seem like he has bought what the sheriff is saying, because all he's really interested in is getting Laura out of there. But like Andrew and the sheriff have said, you know, they don't want a bunch of dead kids on their hands. Again, this is all under the veil of not knowing that the kids are no longer in the camp, unfortunately. All right. Doc kind of goes to Elder Mother. She wants to talk to him and ask her. But he starts by asking her, like, hey, did you bring food to the prisoners? And she was like, I didn't do that. And he was like, well, why was a half-eaten sandwich in there? Again, she has no idea. Now, I thought she was going to put two and two together and realize that maybe when Malcolm gets dragged back to the camp and we see his condition, then she'll be able to put two and two together and realize that, you know, he's sick from the sandwich, the half-eaten sandwich that was given to Ruth, and it wasn't in the pig, right? Either way, she didn't say that in this particular scene. She tells Icon, hey, but since I got your ear, since you here, don't you think that Ruth is getting too big for her britches? Like, she is on one. That baby's going to her head, and that's dangerous for all of us. Again, Icon reminds her, ain't no danger for me. Maybe you, but not me, my girl. You know, the baby is a problem. And, you know, if the baby wasn't an issue, we'd be able to take her down a peg. Because once, you know, that baby's here, she's going to be she's going to be high on power. She's going to have just as much pull as we have, and we don't want that for her. She tells him again, you know, that there's a painless way for that baby to go away through her food, you know, trying to get him in on the team. And she was like, you know, I don't want to kill her. That's really not what I want to do. I want that baby out of here, though. And so Daikon, he seems to not be interested in the information. That's what he's saying with his mouth. That his countenance is giving, tell me the information and I'll decide at a later date if I need to utilize it. Because he was like, you know, well, what are you talking about, old lady? Like, give me the information. He wants the information. And if you were thoroughly uninterested, then why would you insist on that lady telling you if you don't have no plans on, you know, putting that in your back pocket? Whatever. All right, so we're at the foot wash. Foot wash is over and the highest is ready for the prophecy. Him and Ruth are small talking. And so, you know, he's getting ready to get carried out on his pure white throne, child. And George, Lewis, and Manny, they ready to make a move. Manny's still unclear like what his particular role is, but he's unclear, but he's still down for whatever. We got this last little meeting. Daikon's telling George, listen, I've been thinking about you all day, baby. I've been thinking about your little chocolate drop self all day. And I want you to come back by my trailer later tonight so I can show you my appreciation. You know how proud you've been making me. And George is sick, and I'm sick as well because Daikon, and I think during this episode, the theme for Daikon is he's feeling a little bit more appreciated. He's kind of feeling like he's that dude again, by way of, you know, his soldiers being on point and George showing through in the clutch, kind of keeping him out of trouble. And so he's feeling himself, and he want to repay him, you know, repay him in passion, baby. And so that's what he wants. And so George is talking to Lewis. He's like, listen, I'm glad tonight is the night, baby, because he trying to make me a woman, and I am not here for it. But anyway, George is telling Lewis, like, listen, I'm glad we busted a move tonight because this sucker want me to come back to his trailer, and I don't know what he think he gonna get, but he gonna get this Glock if he try me. So I'm glad, you know, shit about to kick off tonight, before Daikon gets a chance to enlighten him. Okay, all right. So the highest is giving them a good Baptist prophecy, child. He has seen a new heaven and a new life, child. And it's a beautiful new chapter. The Rocco has led them higher. He's paid them for all of their suffering. They're headed to a place that has AC, glory, running water. Hallelujah. And they've endured enough suffering. They are on to the great beyond. But they gonna get to enjoy it on the side. Then they ain't gotta die to get their happily ever after, right? And they moving on up like the Jeffersons. Meanwhile, Ruth is talking to Manny, and I don't know, maybe she doesn't realize that Manny is in on the plan as well. But she was like, listen, the highest told me he wanted his feet washed after he get back. So I'm gonna head on in. As soon as she get in there, my good sis, she started taking all that money from under that bed. She put a little piece, a couple little bands in the basket that she was carrying, and the rest she put in like a sheet, jumps out the window, runs around the building, and puts it in the trunk of the old car that Bridget was in. So Bridget's probably the getaway driver. We're just going to make that presumption. Now, I don't know what Manny's role is, but we see what George and Lewis are doing by the end of the scene. Anyway, she jumps out the window and she goes to put the money in the trunk of that car. She got a little bit of money on her, and then she gives them like a little hooty hoo, and gives them a signal. And then George, Lewis, and I don't know if they panned, but I could not tell if it was more than those two. It may not be a whole lot of men because he did tell Bridget that they don't have enough men, which is why they need her. So I don't know if it's just George, Lewis, Bridget, and Manny. Maybe they got more men. We'll see next week. Either way, we see Lewis pointing the gun at the highest's head, and we see George, I think, pointing his gun at Daikon, if I'm not mistaken. So we got the two highest people on the thing at gunpoint. So y'all need to be able to, you know, maneuver and do what I say, unless y'all want these great people, quote unquote, taken out. Lewis is telling the people, like, hey, he's talking to the rest of the soldiers that are, you know, still buying into the rock or whatever. Hey, y'all need to put your guns down or just do this mincemeat. Again, reminder, Lewis has his gun on the highest. And so now, you know, he has some leverage and he's able to do what he needs to do. Now, I don't know how outgunned and outmanned they are, but you have the biggest fish on the compound, so you might have a little leverage if you play your cards right. Now, if they get caught, as these harebrained schemes tend to do, y'all better not be snitching on Ruth, because it's going to be easy to track, because she's in there waiting on the heist. The money goes missing tonight. Or what, this is what I'm thinking they're going to do, right? The heist is going to be done with his prophecy. He's going to go back in there. Ruth is going to wash his feet and knock his boots. And we're going to finish out the evening, right? In the meantime, the car is going to get away with the money. But I don't know how that's going to happen without a big conniption going on. I don't know. We'll see how it works out. I can't figure that out. Either way, that is how the episode ends. You know, we got a lot of action going on. Maybe somebody can finally make it off the compound in one piece. We'll see. Doubt it, but, you know, fingers crossed. Either way, that's been season 4, episode 21. What you think about the episode? Let's talk about it in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.